Hey, this is Jeremy Albrecht from the JJRMX team. You are listening to the Inside Line podcast on Vital MX.
Hey, it's Guyby. This week's guest for the Inside Line is Jeremy Albrecht, also known as J-Bone. These days he keeps things moving as the team manager for the JGRMX Yoshimura Suzuki Factory Racing Team. But he's been around forever, first as a rider and racer, and later taking on wrenching duties for the Kawasaki Factory team for the likes of Jeff Emig and James Stewart. He's got some interesting stories, plus he has great insights into the modern-day racing scene. Sit back and enjoy. Before we dive in, we've got to thank a couple of brands that help support the show. The Inside Line is presented by Thor. Since 1968, Thor MX has been supporting some of the world's most elite racers, including the 2018 250 Pro Motocross champion Aaron Plessinger. Head to ThorMX.com to see the racewear that Aaron and the rest of the Star Racing Yamaha team trust day in and day out. We also have to thank Chaparral Motorsports, who have been helping riders outfit their dirt bikes with parts, accessories, and tires for more than 30 years. Today, Chapmoto offers professional advice, online and in-store, helping you find the best riding gear and equipment for all your powersports vehicles. Visit chapmoto.com today. That's chapmoto.com. All right, Jeremy, what lit this candle for you? How did you get started in the sport?
I had a friend at school that rode motorcycles, and I rode him a little bit. He raced, so actually went to, back then, Glen Helen was called, it was something else. What was it? It was like, anyway, I don't remember the name of it, but it was not Glen Helen.
It's been a while.
It's before Glen Helen. And I went there to race like a Grand Prix, and my brother and we were hooked, and we started racing and raced for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And then my brother actually turned pro before I did, and he needed a mechanic. So he asked me to be his mechanic, which I don't know why, because I wasn't that good. But, yeah, I guess he trusted his brother and just started from there, honestly.
Well, that's what I was wondering, how far you made it as a racer.
Right before turning pro, made it all the way while my dad paid for it, and then it was my turn. I made it about a year, and I'm like, "Oh, this is expensive. It's not going to last too much longer here."
And that was the cheap days.
Yeah, way cheaper than now, for sure.
So, just you kind of reached the limit and working for Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a racer, obviously, but I was smart enough to know I wasn't going to make it where I needed to make a living, so. My brother was actually really good, and I started working for him. He was actually on DGY that year, so I worked for my brother at DGY, and then that just started the career. And then I worked for Buddy, actually, which is funny. He works here. He was the second guy I worked for. Buddy won he got second to McGrath in the 125 class back then, and then he had no ride the next year because there was no spot. So I worked for him that year, and then North County Yamaha after that. Then I worked for Larry Brooks at Nolene, and then I went to Emig, and I was at Kawasaki almost 12 years. With Emig, we were friends. That's how it started. And then worked for Dowd, then a practice bike guy. Then I went to Stewart for 6.5 years, and then now I'm here.
Who was your favorite guy to wrench for?
I would say Emig was my favorite, and maybe because it was the first time that I got the taste of winning, really. And he was just normal. We were good friends, and obviously Stewart was really fun. There was a lot of ups and downs and highlights and crashes and fastest guy ever, but it was a lot of stress and a lot of work, but it was, it was fun too. But I would say Emig, just because we were really good. We were like friends before we raced together. That's how I met him. And he stayed at our house forever, and we just became good friends. And that was the goal always, was that I would work for him. Obviously not really thinking that would ever happen, but that was the goal. When I owned my own team, I'll hire you. But Roy Turner hired me at Kawasaki, and he gave me the first chance, so it was pretty cool.
You had a couple of real rock stars to work for. What comes along with that?
Well, I mean, first it's got to be a little bit of luck. You always just got to do a good job, and you never know, what opportunity is going to lead to the next one. But I always just try to do a good job and, be nice to people. You never know. That's really the key. But, not get too ahead of yourself and too cocky. That there's lots of people that are good. So, just being friendly, I guess, is really what helped me. And not being, to me, I feel like I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I just try to do a good job. So, a lot of guys think they're better than the other guy, and they talk trash on this guy to get the job, and that doesn't last. You're not in the industry that long when you do that. It's too small. So, yeah, I think just kind of luck too. You got to be in the right spot at the right time. It's not, you can be the best guy and not get the right opportunity. So it's kind of luck.
How did you learn the wrenching side and up through the elite level?
At the beginning, so I worked on my own bikes when I rode, because you have to, even though you don't like it. I didn't like it when I rode because I just want to go ride. I don't want to work on it. But then when I decided I was going to do it, when my brother asked me, there was a guy that worked for Hannah and a bunch of guys. His name was Randy Baringa. He kind of like showed me. He was a friend. He worked for a friend of mine, Danny Olvin, that was in the same class as myself, and we rode together. And I knew he was a pro mechanic, so I asked him, "Hey, can you kind of tell me what to do and kind of show me the things I don't know?" So he did that, and that really helped me a lot. Kind of gave me confidence that I knew what I was doing at least. And then the longer you do it, the more you learn. But then the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know anything. So it's kind of crazy. It's never ending. You never know enough. You never learned enough. Things change so fast that, I mean, even right now, I don't work on bikes enough right now to do it at the level I was doing it. But, you do it every day. You get the hang of it. When you go to a team, each team has a different way of doing things anyway. So as long as you listen and do what they want you to do, you'll have a job. You just need to do it their way. So it doesn't matter really what you know. Mm-hmm. They'll teach you what you need to know. So Kawasaki, when I was there, they taught me what I needed to know. On our team, we teach you what we want you to know. Really, the biggest thing you have to know how to do at any job is get along with other people and listen. So if you do those things, I think you'll go a long way.
Man, you were there for the kind of the end of the days for Emig at Kawasaki. I mean, all that seems a little odd now, considering things are legal. I mean, we still have drug testing and racing, but it all seems kind of petty now.
Yeah, I mean, the world's changing for sure. Even back then, I don't, I know, Bruce was the one that had to make that decision, and I don't, like he said, if it was a DUI or something that people, could accept at the time, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal, even though that's still just as bad. But he felt like, amateur kids thinking that, drugs, or that Kawasaki thinks that's okay. That's why I think if they didn't have the amateur program, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But he just didn't want the amateur kids to think that was okay, and we all respected that. And, Emig knew he messed up. The hard part is he didn't do that all the time. That's the part that was kind of crazy. He had fun. I'd say he drank and messed around once in a while, but it wasn't as much as everybody thought. Like if he won, he would go out and have some drinks. We'd all would. And that was the fun of it. So it kind of made him want to go win. And then on Monday, he would go run and train and sweat it all out and be like motivated for the next week. It wasn't like he drank every day of the week. Otherwise, he would have never won. Right. So he did more than people thought he did. But that was kind of Emig's personality anyway. He was, pretty fun, pretty open about having a good time. And, we'd see the other riders, so it's not like he's the only one. Well, he's the only one vocal about it, and then he gets caught doing that, so that was dumb.
Supercross after parties used to be a thing.
Yeah, they did. There was friends of, McGrath's buddies that had the parties. Yeah, it was fun. We all had a good time. Nowadays, everyone has a phone, so it's a little trickier to go out, and you got to be careful. Instagramming and all those things, people don't, you get caught doing those things now. So after Emma got fired, I think things have changed a little bit.
Well, thinking back to Fresno Smooth and the fat bowl of Emigos, that seems a little ironic too. Yeah, obviously people didn't think that Emig was going to get fired by pot back then, but yeah, the whole thing, like that movie was ahead of its time too. I think it would do really well nowadays. It was a little edgy for people back then. So I was kind of happy it didn't really make it big for a little while there. It's actually more popular now than it was back then. Sort of a cult classic.
Yeah, it's a cult classic, and I think that's probably better for all of us that it stayed like that. Maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. Maybe I'd have to be acting or something.
Those 125 days had to be pretty fun with Bubba.
Yeah, he wrote it awesome. He wrote everything so good, and it was definitely fun. knowing every time you line up the line that you can win a race is a pretty cool feeling. Yeah, it was a lot of work though. We had to do a lot to keep those two strokes running back then, but it was worth it for sure.
Well, I remember going to races and I'd see you with the top end off after almost every practice section. Every time we rode, we took it off just to make sure, because we spent too much money to get there to have something go wrong. And back then reeds would chip. We started using carbon fiber. Those Tassinary ones helped a lot. That was a big move. I was happy to run those, but still, you have to. Back then, that was still pretty early, so you had to always make sure that all the reeds, they weren't frayed. You had to make sure that the ring wasn't catching on anything. You had to look at the piston, make sure it wasn't seasoned, make sure the spark plug looked good and it was jetted right. No EFI, so you can't have a bog. So yeah, it was definitely. The day went by fast. We were taking it apart all the time. Yeah. How much extra work went into chassis stuff too? Because he put some stresses on bikes that I don't think anybody else ever did.
Yeah, there was a Redbud. We went through 3 frames in one day. That was a little much. I had to tell him to quit jumping Larocco's Leap. I'm like, you need to stop doing that. We don't have another frame. I actually used someone else's spare because I usually we only hauled 1 spare. Then I started hauling 2. And then when he went to the 3rd one, I'm like, I just took someone else's frame, so quit jumping that jump. But because he'd go for it. He blew wheels out, frames, everything.
Wasn't scared.
No.
I remember one time being out at Elsinore watching you and Bubba playing around. It looked like you guys were having fun and just riding. That was kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah, when he was at the beginning, he was younger. He liked to go have fun, and I actually tried to take him to Ritchie Canyon to go riding, but he's never really play rode, so it wasn't fun for him. And I haven't been there in a while, so all the stuff I used to ride was not really there. But if you think of a kid like him, he grew up at his house with prep tracks and watered, and you don't get that in the hills unless you rode after a rain. So, yeah, he was hurt, so he came back from riding. We thought we'd go play ride in the hills together. And he didn't even know how to have fun. It was kind of funny because it's not a prep track. So we ended up going. We loaded up, went to Glen Helen, and I'm like, oh, great. Play riding's my thing. But, yeah, I would go riding with him once in a while. We did Elsinore, Glen Helen. We actually went behind all the test tracks. There's some, little jumps in the back. It was like an old, I don't know, like a bunch of step-ups for us, but it was for some type of trees. I don't know if it was fruit trees or whatever back there, but that was really fun. It's all terraced. Yeah, it was really cool. So we did that. Actually went on to a couple of people's supercross tracks back then. That was kind of fun. So I got to do that for a couple laps, and I got nervous and didn't want to crash out there. Yeah, it's not our track.
Man, I remember towards the end, he was just ruining those guys all season long on a 125 when everybody else was on 4-strokes. And then that last race at Glen Helen, he jumped on the 4-stroke, and it was kind of murder there.
Yeah, that was so the beginning of that year. To order parts, we had to pick what he was going to ride. So at that time, he felt like the 125 is what he wanted to ride. And then we went to the first 2 races, and Roncada was actually riding really well and all over him. So he was really mad that he thought Roncada was close to him because of the 4-stroke, which it probably was. But at the time, we're like, well, you're riding this. This is what we picked. That's what we have parts for. So we had enough stuff to do a little bit because we had a 250F for testing. So that's why we allowed him, after he won the title, to ride the 250, because we didn't have a lot of parts to do the whole year. So actually we gave him that bike after he won the title and then raced Glen Helen with it. So definitely the bike to use there with all those hills.
Well, I remember like a couple hundred or maybe 300-yard lead at the end of the first lap.
He was on
ridiculous.
It. Yeah, it's good he didn't have it all year. Made him work for it.
When you guys switched over to the 250, things got a little tougher because you guys were almost the last of the 2-stroke when everybody else had made the change to 4-stroke. Yeah,
that was definitely tough. I guess he was told that the 4-stroke was coming, so when it didn't, it's always that way in production. They really want to make sure that the bike is ready before it comes out to production. So the bike that was going to come out wasn't going to be available when it was supposed to be. So he was mad because that year he wasn't supposed to be riding a 2-stroke, but the 4-stroke wasn't available yet. They were still working on it. So they got mad. So when they were riding and Ricky was on a 4-stroke and he was actually beating us, that's when James would try to like respond really quick when he'd pass him, and then he ran into him a couple times, made some mistakes because he had to pass him right back or Ricky'd be gone. So he was a little bit desperate in that situation, and it caused some issues. And then I think one of those races he ended up hitting his head and didn't race the rest of the year. That was 05.
Yeah, was that Unadilla, I think?
Yeah, when he landed on him at Unadilla. But I think he ran into him at, if I remember, Binghamton down the hill. Couple, but that was why. It was just he was in a bad situation, and the 4-stroke definitely was better. We all knew it. That was when we finally knew it, because he rode the 2-stroke so well that when you could just roll it on out of a corner and pull away, that's not really that fair. So yeah, that was definitely the end of the 2-stroke till recently. Seemed like everyone loves them again. Now they know how expensive 4-strokes are to maintain. Now people love them again.
When you were wrenching, did you ever think you'd end up to where you're at now?
No, I never really. That's what I laugh all the time. My plan was really to race, and none of this was really the plan, which I don't know why I thought I was going to race with no plan. It's kind of crazy. I think every kid should think about what are they going to do after racing, because you have to do something. But you don't think that far out. In our sport, all you think about is right now, and you don't think long term. So I'm glad that it worked out without me planning it out.
How did you make the transition? How did you end up here?
I knew. So David Evans does all our sponsor stuff on our team here at JGR still, and I knew him from. He brought the early sponsor into the sport. So back in the early days, he brought Chevy trucks to Kawasaki and the AMA. So I knew him. He rode. Then he was an agent for James when I worked with James, and then David met Coy. And then I heard about this team coming, but I never really planned on coming here. And then I don't know, I just happened to ask them, "Hey, is your team still happening?" And they go, "Yeah, next year. Why, you know anybody that needs a job?" And then that just clicked in my head that maybe it was time for myself to have a change. I didn't know it was going to be North Carolina, or I probably wouldn't have called, but it ended up working out because I really like living there. I like the team. The family's been awesome to work for, and it's cool because David's still here working with me, so it's definitely fun. The biggest challenge is sponsor stuff, but that's kind of what makes it fun also, is always chasing it.
Yeah, I think you guys had meetings today, but even on the NASCAR side, they've struggled a little with finding sponsors recently.
Yeah, I think everything's changing. Our biggest thing now is just trying to. It's not just a logo on a bike anymore. That helps it with some sponsors that need awareness. But if you already have awareness, the good thing we have that no other teams have in our sport is the footprint of having the NASCAR team and all the partners we work with. So just leveraging all that is really our biggest asset, and that's what I think will help us in the future here. It's still hard to do it, but yeah, we're moving more into that area, and yeah, it's all about selling product or whatever it is that our sponsors need. So hopefully Suzuki can sell a whole bunch of bikes and they're happy, and whatever other sponsors we bring on, we'll get what they need out of it as well.
When the team started over here, this was something entirely new for Joe and Coy. How did they approach it, and how different was it from a traditional motocross, supercross team?
At the beginning, they wanted to do it more like a football team. It's kind of funny because we were the first ones to really have the team live in one area, use the gym, have a trainer, do all these things. But all the riders back then, I think it was probably the ones we had was the problem, did not want to go along with that. So now KTM's doing that, and it works. I think you just have to have the right guys. You have to have guys that win. And then when you have guys that win, people believe in it, and then they don't fight the program. But, we started, not with, the elite top guys. So I think that made it a little bit difficult. But at the same time, we needed to start there because we weren't ready to have a top guy. So, every year I feel like we, try to bring on a higher level guy and just keep working at it. And it's not easy. We're competing against all the best teams in the world, so we're all fighting for every year. We're all fighting for the same guy, so they all go where they think they'll have the most success or make the most money or whatever it is that they want. So it's not as easy as maybe we even thought. you're not going to you can't just go buy a guy. I mean, you have to really overpay to buy a guy. So, we don't really try to buy a guy. We did try that one time with Stewart and it didn't work out. So we're not doing that ever again. We're just we do it if they want to be here and this is the place for them. And if we get second or first or fifth or 10th or whatever, and the guys want to be here and we can all try to get better together, that's really what we're looking at now.
Early on with the equipment, was it also kind of a different philosophy, or was that a little more traditional?
In our sport, it's hard because in NASCAR, they can make a lot of things and do things to be faster, and they can make a difference on the track, and that's the hardest part, I think, for the Gibbs family, is that in motorcycles, you don't just have the best equipment and go win. You have to have the rider is most of it, and you have to have good equipment, but that's not the most important piece.
And support and everything else.
Yeah, it's in the end, they know racing. They have teams. They have trucks. They do all of it. But our sport is different, and I think for Coy, he loves that you train. You have the rider part of it. You have the bike part of it, and then the technical part behind it. So it's challenging. Maybe if we won all the time, maybe they wouldn't be doing it to this day. So maybe we're keeping our job by not winning yet. I hope not, but the goal is to win, and we need to do better on that side for sure.
How has the team evolved over time? How the way you do things, has that evolved or changed?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say like anything, you learn better ways to do things every year, and when we switched over to Suzuki, we really changed a lot of things. We do a lot more. We're integrated in Japan a lot more than we were in the past. Every Monday we have a meeting with all the Suzuki people. We have Buddy on the team now, so we have the guys ride together a lot and do motos. Like this week we did Triple Crown format. Just try to prepare the riders more, which is why I like having Buddy here also. We're doing the 250 team now, so that's new. So that we hope, like what Hill did, he came from there to here. So hopefully that helps us get the guys that we need. Because in the end, what we realized chasing sponsors is, even though you have the guy, it doesn't really make it work. So we need to be in control of our team and have sponsors that want to be here, no matter who the rider is. Maybe. We hopefully in the end we build a kid from amateur to pro, starting through the different levels of Suzuki. So they have a Bar X team. That's the first step, and then hopefully you come to our 250 team, and then hopefully you turn into our 450 team. That's the pathway. So that's new, but really working with a partner that really sees that we're the goal to get to, and that they really want us to succeed, and they're helping us. That's been good, but. Really, I think having the backing of Japan, they give us drawings. We can make a lot of things in house. We share all the information. They trust us. A lot of times they won't give you drawings or really tell you things. So we got this new 250 early, which typically you wouldn't get that early. So they're just treating us like a partner, like we always wanted. So. Hopefully you see the end result gets better. But I think we're in a really good spot, and each year we learn and get better.
What kind of resources do you guys get from the NASCAR side?
Well, they do. They help us with all our wiring. Last year they did 100% of it. We gave them the diagram, and they made all our wire harnesses and all our data stuff, and we can leverage a lot of that, get some deals on things because they buy so much of all that stuff. It helps with some vendors because we use some of the same vendors. So because they buy so much stuff, we have a little bit more leverage. Maybe we get a little quicker, or if we have a problem, we can get it pushed through quick. A lot of knowledge, really. The engineers have seen a lot of things. So, it's all engines. It's similar. But in the end, you still need all our engine guys are all motorcycle guys, so they can get advice from the car guys, just stuff that they've seen. But in the end, I think you still need to be motorcycle people, really, because we could probably jump in the car, but this is what we know, and it's just a tiny bit different. Not huge, but when we have issues, like there is a whole department that when you have failures, there's a guy that gives you a whole 16-page report on what actually broke first, and that's pretty cool to have. The guy used to work somewhere else, and they hired him in-house, so that's really big, because a lot of times you don't know what failed first, so he can tell you that, and hopefully that doesn't happen again.
You just leave the engine together and hand it off to him?
You can't clean anything. You got to hand it. You can take it apart, but you need to give him all the pieces. You got to leave him dirty. And then he has all these microscopes and all these machines to cut it all apart and take pictures. Pretty cool.
Sounds like a little forensic detective action.
Exactly what it is, yeah.
When you guys were with Yamaha, it didn't look like it was always the most comfortable relationship.
Yeah, it was different. I think maybe because of how it started. We started out as, just another team with them. And then when they didn't have a team, I think that's when it got a little bit tough. And then, I think we always wanted to be the team, so that makes maybe it not work good. And then us being in North Carolina, that was one of the things. That's why we work with Japan in these Suzuki meetings. The things that I learned we did maybe not as well with them, I wanted to fix when we came here. So when I was first talking to Chris, that was what we were trying to figure out, is how can we make the relationship work for both people, because I just tried to think of the things that didn't really work with Yamaha, and I don't want that mistake to happen again. So it's been really working really well so far.
When you guys signed James, that seemed like a huge deal, and looked like you had all the necessary pieces, what you'd kind of been waiting for to make things happen.
Yeah, in the end, we talk about it all the time. It's like what stepped us up, but at the same time stepped us back. But we took one step forward and two step back after that. But in the end, it was good for us as a team to learn the things we did. We did a lot of things that we didn't know we could do. We made a lot of parts. The NASCAR team helped a lot. We made gas tanks and shrouds and crazy parts actually really fast, and a lot of rapid prototype stuff that was made to run temporarily. We made carbon fiber shrouds, aluminum shrouds. It was pretty awesome. But in the end, yeah, it just, we came to the first race and it didn't go. He actually probably would have got third, but he crashed on the last lap, and maybe things would have been a little different. But again, things happen for a reason, and it just didn't really work out. He had a tough time. I think he already mentally didn't really want to be on that bike to begin with. We talked him into it. That's why I don't want to talk people into anything anymore. I felt like we talked him into it more than him wanting to do it. He first talked to us because we were actually going to go to Suzuki, and that's what he was excited about. But in the end, we were trying to work it out with Suzuki, and looked like it was going to happen, and then last minute the things we wanted weren't going to happen. We couldn't really do anything. Like all the stuff we do now, we wouldn't have been able to do. So we decided we wanted to go with what we want to do. So we got a 3-year deal from Yamaha at the time, and that's what we always wanted. So we took the 3-year deal and told James, go do whatever you want. And then that's when he said, well, bring the bike down here. And that's where it all started. And, I would say, from there it was us, selling them on the team. And, I should have just took the bike and not sold them on the team and just let it happen. But we really wanted it to happen. And, in the end, it still made us better. We learned a lot. Millsaps got second that year. We did good, and then it just made everybody think you had to be big to ride the bike. But I don't believe that either. I mean, was it perfect? No. Is any bike perfect? I don't think so. You make the bike, the riders, you make what they want it to be. So that's what's frustrating and hard when you go to a race and they want to blame the team when we got there from their direction. So some are better than others at testing, and that's the hardest part, is by the time you get to know the guy, it's a little too late. So you get into half through the season, you're like, maybe this guy didn't know what he's talking about, but you count on that they know what they're talking about. They've got to this point, you think they know what they want. So yeah, I mean, that's, some teams don't make many changes, which can be good and bad. It just depends on how it's really going, and maybe our mistake was we did too much.
That's something that I've probably never heard anybody admit. So
yeah, usually no one does, but in the end, we did anything he wanted, and that's where I think we messed up.
Man, I remember a crash of his at Houston where he got up and he kind of flung his helmet off, and I was thinking to myself, we are never going to see him on that bike again.
Yeah, I think that's when it ended too. Yeah. That's about right. Yeah, that Yeah, that pretty much was the last race you saw him on our bike.
What were the highlights through the Yamaha days? You talked about second with Millsaps. What were the highlights through there?
I mean, our second year with Grant, he won Anaheim 1 here. That was really cool. That was an exciting one. Not only did he win, he did it with a banner in his wheel, smoking. So we thought we weren't going to win because we were out front, but he was locking it up. I think James and Chad took each other out, so that kind of helped us out. But, yeah, that was a highlight. I mean, really, there was a lot of good years. It was just, I think really us being in North Carolina, them being out here the whole time, they thought we should be here, but we all live there. So it was just that little struggle, really. But there's a lot of good people work there, and I think everyone has people that are easy to work with and people that aren't easy to work with. But maybe we weren't always as easy to work with as we should have been either. So I'm just really happy where I am now. The Suzuki, us probably having that relationship made us really good now. So I think we're better partners. Suzuki is a great partner to us. So, really, it is about helping each other, and that's what I try to do now. We really do whatever, we can for Suzuki, and they do the same for us. And I don't feel like we did that before.
With the health issues and recent passing of J.D. Gibbs, we haven't seen Coy around nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, Coy, the good thing, he has come to all three of these, which I was wondering if he was going to come last week. But I think for him, for him to come here and be part of something that he likes probably helps him. Obviously, everyone's sad about his brother. His brother was awesome, and, he's the reason that Coy did this is he backed, the idea. They all had to agree as a family that this is what they wanted to do, and JD rode our old track. He loved motocross, him and Coy both. They rode a little bit as kids, but Joe wouldn't let him ride too much. He wanted them to play football. So they've always loved it. And, all the time that we were working there, he would come over and visit and say hi and come to a few races here and there. Obviously, going to 36 car races is a lot of work. So that's why we don't see Coy much. Ever since his brother got sick, he had to go over and run the NASCAR team. So he's been to every NASCAR race. I think except for Daytona, he came to our Daytona race. He didn't go to their race. I think they might have been Fontana that week. But anyway, he has to go to all those races, so we see him when we can.
With how much time do you spend developing stuff for Aftermarket versus for the team itself?
Obviously, we spend, I would say, 90% of the time focusing on the race team. We used to do, engine service and suspension services, and we don't really do that anymore. But what we are getting ready to do, which there is a soft launch coming, and we will be doing Suzuki stuff. So we still do a little bit of stuff, some pull rods, some carbon fiber, some pieces that we made for our race bikes that we offer. And we're kind of going to do the same thing with some Suzuki parts that we will have coming, and probably do the real launch around Atlanta. So everyone will know more around Atlanta. But check our website. We're going to put stuff up. But that's when everything will become more real around Atlanta. We were going to do it around Anaheim 1. Too much going on. Then we're going to do this weekend. But really just to let us be smoothed out on the race team and have more parts in the country. It'd be better to wait till, I think Atlanta's a good time for us. So we're shooting for Atlanta to do a little thing that you'll be invited to.
I'll be there. So how's it been working on that 250? If in the rankings for shootouts, for example, it hasn't fared that well. But, watching Jimmy Dakota's out there and Enzo, they look like they're doing pretty well on it.
Yeah, it's really good. We were excited to have a new bike, and the way it handles is awesome, and that's what some of our stuff will help that's going to be available. Yeah, it was cool to have it early and get it working really well. It's good as a stock bike. Obviously, race form, it's a whole different thing. So, I think all the magazines or all the manufacturers would like to put the fastest, best handling bike out there. But, for Suzuki, they really want it to be, handle better than their last bike. It has to, pass all these things. So sometimes a faster bike or a lighter bike doesn't work as well. So they're really into, the handling. That's what Suzuki's all about. So I would say if anybody was going to, talk about the 250, they would want it to be a little more powerful, which not everyone needs, but, there are a lot of fast bikes out there. So for us, we got it running really good. It is a big improvement from last year. So I think anyone that rode a Suzuki will definitely love it. It's easy as a shootout when you're going from bike to bike to pick things apart. And all of them are closer, I think, than what the shootouts show. Because all the bikes are good. That's the hard part. I think every bike is good. I think for myself, I could ride every bike and go the same speed. You might be a little more comfortable on this one or that one, or you like this motor, you like that chassis. If you could take all the things you like and make a bike, but you can't, that's what you're trying to do in the shootout. And a lot of times the shootouts are trying to show you what is worse on this bike or that bike, and it might not be as big of a difference as it comes across. So really, I wish they had like demo days and everybody could go ride all these bikes and really pick what they want. But, you have to be a fan of the brands that you like. And, I think as long as you buy a motorcycle, I'd like you to buy a Suzuki, but buy a motorcycle. Start there.
I like that idea. How deep have you guys dug into the 250 engine and how much have you changed? I know Dean loves to get in there and play.
Yeah, he got to do everything he wanted to do. We're still got big plans to keep going, and yeah, he did a lot. That was our biggest our biggest thing we worked on. Obviously the 450 we did, but it was similar, so we didn't have to do as much work on that side. So they really got to do a lot on the 250. We're excited. We have Amart coming on the East Coast and outdoor, so I think we'll I can't wait to see him outdoor on that thing. It's going to be good. But yeah, he got to pretty much do everything. So it's pretty cool.
Go wide open.
Yeah, it's all kinds of new parts we made, and still getting a lot of help again from Japan. So they've been helping us a lot with it, and just telling us a lot of information about it as well. So we try stuff and share back and forth, and we've been working a lot with Get on some stuff too. So yeah, I think there's big things coming that people are going to like.
With the 450, maybe not the most or the newest or most advanced platform out there, but it's still that's a solid bike.
Yeah, it is. It's really good too. It's funny. A lot of people, they read the same thing. They might read a magazine and not want to buy the Suzuki because it doesn't get the top rating either. But again, it gets knocked for maybe not electric start or maybe not the biggest horsepower, but it really works really well. It does handle good. Once you get the balance on the bike good, I think that's the biggest complaint also. But those are all, pretty easy things to fix. But, that's the thing. Like, it really is. The test rider's job is to pick everything apart. And I think sometimes it comes across like the bikes are further away than they are. But I really think, like, whoever's winning the race tomorrow night could probably win on any brand nowadays. They're all that close. So you have to stand out and you have to do cool stuff. And our job here as a race team is to make people want to buy a Suzuki.
Man, putting together this year's team couldn't have been easy. Obviously you had Weston signed and then he gets hurt, and you were trying to figure out how to get Chad on board also. Yeah,
it's the whole off season definitely been a challenging one for sure. We had we had Auto Trader for a long time, and then they told us they weren't renewing, so we're still obviously trying to fix that. That's not even fixed yet. We're working on it every day to try to make the future of JGR even better and stronger. And it's a never-ending thing these days with sponsorship. But Chad actually called me, and I was just real honest with him and told him I'd love to have him. I just need to figure out how to make sense of it and be able to pay for it. And Coy really likes Chad, so yeah, we decided to try to work together, and he was talking to some sponsors also that he had contacts with, so we were all helping each other, and in the end, that's really why we ended up working it out, is he was trying to help us. We were trying to help him. It didn't really happen, but we were working well together and decided to go racing. So here we are. And then, with Weston, we don't know how long he's out. It's kind of whenever he feels like he's good enough, but we don't know. Is that a week? Was that a 6 month or a year? We don't know. So we're all waiting. And, I pretty much had to figure out that my guess was that he'd do 9 Supercrosses. So that's what I budgeted for. So we'll see.
How big a hit is it when you lose somebody like Auto Trader? Do you still have everything you need to go racing?
No, we don't. It's a big hit. Yeah, it depends on the sponsor. We've had some that are, it all depends on how much of a financial part or technical partner they are. For us, that was a really big hit. Probably one of the biggest ones we've had. So yeah, we're still looking right now. We're trying to find sponsors now to hopefully replace that, but we haven't found it yet. But the cool part is the Gibbs, we still got to go racing. Coy. This is Coy's baby. So Coy, I wouldn't say he's loving it, but he's helping fund a lot of it at the moment. So hopefully we can fix that so he doesn't keep getting mad at me about it. But we're still working on that. That was a big one. It depends. Sometimes it seems like in the past we'd get a new one and we'd lose an old one, get a new one, so it always kind of worked out. This is the first time that it didn't. I wouldn't say first time. We have lost money before, but this is the first time it's been this big of a number that we don't have when we're going racing. So, yeah, we're still. Hopefully, we fill this gap. We had, like you said, we had meetings earlier today. We have a dinner tonight. We're trying to fix this problem and try to make it the goal for the Gibbs, for Coy. Keep saying the Gibbs, but really Coy. The goal for him is just to go racing. He's not really trying to make a dollar. Everything that we bring in goes toward our team. So that's why you see 2 big trucks and you see all these riders and you see all that, we can make the 250 fast and we can do all these things because anything we have, we're allowed to put back in the team. He doesn't care if it makes money. I just can't lose money. And at the moment, losing money. So I got to fix it.
Okay. What do you see for the future of the team?
The Coy, all of us, we haven't really got the results we want. So we really want to keep pushing and get better results and, just show everybody that, we are the team. I know that we're I've been on other teams and the team works really well together. We have really good people. We have great riders. Just all the little pieces haven't lined up yet to do what we should have done. And, the hardest part in all this is every team is this way. They all have really good people on them, and they all have really good riders, and everyone comes here all with the same goal to win, and only one team can win. We haven't been that team yet, so we'd like to be that. We've won a few races here and there, but definitely not what the Gibbs are used to. So I would like to get this team where it needs to be, and it's hard. Once it starts rolling, it gets easier, but we need to get rolling.
There's some flashes out there. Justin being the top qualifier last weekend, that was one of them.
Yeah, for sure. This, I think definitely the buddy piece was a good added thing last year to have him help just, kind of more have the riders ride together more, push them more, kind of know more. We're not really like training them, but being more involved in that a little bit, where before they kind of got to do whatever they wanted after we ended the trainer thing. Pretty much when James came, the trainer went away, letting them do whatever they wanted, which, like I said earlier, letting them do whatever he wanted, good and bad. It wasn't the right thing at the time, but like I said, I learned. Yeah. So we're learning as we go. And each year I do feel like we learn something that we could do better and, watch other teams. I'm not afraid to see what other people do and change. But, really results is the only thing we're missing. Results and money. Other people's money, not JGR money. They'll spend some, but they're spending too much at the moment.
Gotcha. What do you see for the future for yourself?
Same thing. I like what I do. Yeah, I keep doing this and having a good time. So, yeah, you'll see me.
There's moto lifers, and I think you're one of them.
Seems like it. I don't know. I try not to think that far out. I don't really have a exit plan or I'm only working this many more years. I mean, I hope my goal is to stay on this team until I retire, but it's not always up to me. But yeah, I feel like I'm loyal, and I like it here, and I like the Gibbs, and I like the family. I love our team. We all are around each other all the time. So yeah, my plan is to stay here. Hopefully you do this interview every year and I'm still here.
That sounds good. Well, I appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, that's it for this time around. Thanks to Jeremy and the JGRMX crew for the time. Before we head out, we have to thank our sponsors. The Inside Line is presented by Thor. Remember, for over 50 years, Thor MX has been at the forefront of motocross racewear innovation with products that are purpose-built to help riders perform at the highest level in one of the most demanding sports in the world. The 2019 collection, featuring the revolutionary Prime Pro racewear, is available now. Head to thormx.com to learn more. We also have to thank Chaparral Motorsports. For more than 30 years, Chaparral Motorsports has been sharing its love of dirt bikes with like-minded individuals by offering a massive selection of the latest riding gear, new models, parts and accessories, and great pricing on tires. Visit chapmoto.com. That's chapmoto.com. Ready for some more bench racing? Look for the next Inside Line soon. In the meantime, you can subscribe to the show via your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any future episodes. You can also go back and check out previous shows. If you're feeling really generous, leaving us a rating and review always helps. Thanks.